Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Justin Davis. Welcome back to my channel. I've taught over 15 million people how to fly drones in the past 5 years on my channel, so this is going to be a great video for you. If you're just getting into drones or you're thinking about buying your first drone, the DJI MAVIC Air is a pretty good bet. It's a little bit cheaper than the Mavic Pro and the Phantom 4. It's a little bit more expensive than the DJI Spark, but it gets a lot better video than the DJI Spark does. And I'll show you a little bit of comparison between those drones and the new DJI MAVIC Air. But first, we're going to get started flying this drone together. We're going to go through a few fundamentals of learning how to fly a drone. If you're new to flying drones, we're going to give you sort of a mini drone camps tutorial in this video. We're also going to take you flying around some beautiful, stunning flying spots. I'm going to show you how good this little camera is on this little Mavic Air. Let's go ahead and get started with the first fundamentals of learning how to set up properly, choose your spot, and fly your drone. Here we go. Now, while you're waiting for your drone to come in the mail, one of the most important things you can do as a drone pilot is go to knowbeforeyoufly.org, and I'm going to put a link down there below for you guys. If you're just getting into drones, it's really important that you know federal regulations about flying drones, where you can fly them, where you can't fly them, but location is the most important thing. Now, while you're studying that, you can charge up your batteries. I have the Fly More combo here, and that includes 3 batteries and a pretty cool case and a multi-charger. And we'll go into the studio a little bit later, and we'll take a little closer look at all of this gear. But location is everything. Weather is also really important. You don't want to fly in a super cloudy day. If you don't get a good GPS signal, don't take off, because you won't have recorded the home point. That's very important too. Losing signal. If you lose signal, you'll need to be able to have your quad come back home and land safely. Also, every new place that you go, calibrate the compass. That's going to be extremely important to flying drones. If you fly the same local spot every single time, you can calibrate it once or twice every once in a while. You don't have to calibrate it every single time you fly. So probably one of the most important things you can do for yourself as a new pilot is find a nice big wide open field where there's not a lot of trees that you can crash into. I've sold really expensive drones to people that have a lot of money, and they have crashed them the same day they got them. So you can spend $3,000 and have it into a tree in your driveway in a few minutes time. But today we have a nice big open field. There's plenty of room out here. There's no dogs, animals, kids, or other people around, no traffic, no highways. So we're gonna go ahead and turn on the remote first, then the drone, and we're going to turn on the device to connect to the Wi-Fi. We'll calibrate the compass, and then we'll do our first circuits with the DJI MAVIC Air. Here we go. So now that you've downloaded the DJI app, go ahead and put your iPhone. If you're using Android phone, go ahead and put your Android phone in the cable on the transmitter. That's going to go ahead and connect your phone to the transmitter, and you're going to have to connect to the Wi-Fi on this drone after that. The Wi-Fi signal on this one is different than the OcuSync with the Mavic Pro. So there's a big difference between Wi-Fi and OcuSync, as well as LightBridge, and those are all 3 different types of video transmission systems. So you will need to have Wi-Fi on your phone to use the Mavic Air. Most people do have Wi-Fi. It runs on 5.8 Wi-Fi. So we're going to flip up our antennas like this. I'm going to go ahead and start up the transmitter by pressing once and again, and we're going to go ahead and power up the drone as well. On the bottom of the drone, just press once and hold again for 2 seconds, and once I get into the app, then I can go ahead and calibrate the compass. All right, there's that, going to be that familiar DJI startup tone there. There that goes. So we'll go ahead and open up my phone. Now you're going to go to your Wi-Fi inside your phone, just like you're going to connect in a cafe. Once it's connected, go out, go back to your DJI Go app, DJI Go 4, and you should see Mavic Air pop up on the screen. Sometimes it'll go straight into the program. So now I'm right there inside the program, and it takes me to the aircraft status screen. Now I can go ahead and I can select calibrate compass there, because last time I flew somewhere else, and very simple to calibrate the compass. You're going to hold it level. Try not to put your hand over top of the GPS. The GPS is located at the top of this drone. So once I go all the way around, it's going to tell me on the app that I'm good. Then I can point it at the ground, and I can go around once more. Just one rotation should do it. Now I can set it back down, and now I'm good to go. So I am in GPS mode. On your transmitter, there's a little button right in the center, and this says sport on it. So if you switch into sport mode, that's going to let it fly in ADI mode. Make sure that when you're recording the home point that it is in GPS mode. You'll see it at the very top of the screen. It should say ready to go GPS, and the app's actually going to announce when it has recorded the home point on your screen. So when you record the home point, then you're safe to take off and do your first flights. So the next thing you want to establish is situational awareness. Everything is good with the wind. Under 15 miles an hour is recommended for the Mavic Air. If you fly anything and over that, you might be stressing the battery or the power system, so you don't want to have a failure in air. The harder the wind's blowing, the harder your drone needs to work to fly. So keep that in mind. It's going to stress the power system a little more. So there's a couple different ways you can take off with the Mavic Air. You can press this auto takeoff button inside the app. You can also bring the sticks down and out to the sides, and that will arm the motors just like that, and it won't come off the ground yet until you're ready. I can also do the same thing again, sticks out into the outside edges, bottom corners, and it's going to disarm it. So now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do our first circuit. If this is your first day with the Mavic Air, this is going to be great. So this is our drone camps training program, the first in our curriculum, which is called the square circuit. And come up about 3 feet off the ground. If you get close to yourself, the object avoidance on this drone is actually going to start beeping from your app. So I'm going to bring it over here, just give you an example of that. And you should be able to hear this alarm, and it's actually not letting me fly it any closer to myself. So you can see that green flashing light in the very back of the drone. Object avoidance is working, and from the front as well. If I want to come near myself, look at this, full stick, and it's not coming any closer. Just give you an example of that. I'll bring it a little bit higher, about face level. I'll go out a little bit, and I'll come back in, and I'll come closer, and it's going to stop itself. So pretty cool. It does have situational awareness for itself. It has object avoidance on the front and the rear. It's also going to see the ground and help you with positioning with the optical flow system on the bottom. If you're flying indoors, it's going to hold a hover point, sort of like it has GPS indoors in that ADI optical flow mode. So here we go. We're going to do our first drone camp circuit, and the first circuit is called the square circuit. Now the first thing you're going to do is go to the right, and you're going to stop just using the right hand stick. This is the most important thing for this tutorial. You're only using the right stick. Leave your throttle stick right there in the center because it does have altitude hold. Now once you reach your first checkpoint, go ahead out to the next part of our square. This is our imaginary circuit. I'm going to bring it a little bit higher so you guys can see that black dot in the air. Now we're stopped at the next part of our circuit. We're going to go to the next part right there. There's the next part of our square. We're going to come back one more. And now we've completed our first circuit. So I'm going to come down just a little bit. Now I'm going to come back to the starting point. And there we go. There's the first square circuit. Very, very simple. Basically what this does is it teaches you your roll axis and your forward and backwards, pitch and roll. So we're going to do that one more time. We're going to do it a little bit quicker this time. Starting at the first one, we're going to go out to the next one and stop. We're going to go to the next point and stop. Next point and stop. And the next point and stop. So now there is a quick square circuit. And usually what I have people do, the next one is the opposite direction. So using the left stick only, we're going to go to the left this time and stop. We're going to go out and stop. One more, right there, stop. And one more, and stop. Hands off hover right there. So we did a circuit in the opposite fashion. Now the next thing we're gonna do is something called the organic circle. And the organic circle is really getting you used to moving it around in sort of a more organic fashion without worrying about just pushing straight or left. So we're gonna give it a circular joystick motion. Here we go. We're gonna go out to the left, only using the right stick. And you can do this if you're watching this video at the field for the first time with your Mavic Air. This is going to teach you a lot about the way the aircraft moves. You want to make sure that you do a nice tight circle as you're coming around for your organic circle. When you get back to the beginning point right here, go ahead and stop. So we did our first organic circle. Now we're going to do something called the GPS column. The GPS column is a very standard way to get you used to your throttle. You can do this numerous times with your drone and really get used to how much throttle you have with the particular aircraft that you're using. So using the left stick only, this time we're not using the right stick at all. You're gonna go straight up and straight down. This is our GPS column. So we're gonna go full throttle straight up. We'll stop about 25 feet in the air. Now we're gonna do full throttle straight down with the Mavic Air. And we're gonna stop right about 5 feet off the ground and let go. So there's your first GPS column. Very, very simple procedures. So now we're gonna talk about something that a lot of people don't go over in drone tutorials. It's called nose-in flying. It comes from my early days of RC heli flying. And what you're gonna do is use the yaw on the left stick, bring your Mavic Air around till it's facing you, sort of in that selfie mode. And what you're gonna do now is you're gonna press the right stick to the left, and watch, it's gonna go right. See the drone go right? Now when I push right, it's gonna go left. This is really important to learn this because a lot of people, when they fly their drone for the first time, when they get the drone facing them, they press right and it goes left, or they press left and it goes right, and that's confusing because all of a sudden your roll axis is opposite of what it would normally be if the drone was facing away from you. So very important. If I turn the drone around so that the rear is facing me, if I press left, it's gonna go left. If I press right, it's gonna go right. But now when you spin the drone around facing you, everything is opposites, just like with RC cars and RC airplanes. Now the next part of this little mini tutorial, we're gonna do another organic circle, but this time we're gonna practice forward flight. So you're gonna use the left stick in conjunction with the right stick this time. And the left stick is going to be the way that you move the drone left and right on the yaw axis. That's on your horizontal axis only. So this is going to be how you do your pans. When you're in like tripod mode and you're hovering around and doing your pans, you're using that left stick. So we're gonna go ahead and do the organic circle this time, but we're gonna keep the quad straight as it goes around in the circle. We're gonna keep the nose forward. So this is pretty tough for some new people to get the first time. We're gonna go ahead and start out going into forward flight by pushing on the right stick. And as we go pushing on the right stick forward, we're gonna use our left thumb to move the front of the drone a little bit to the left as we go around in the circle. So here we go, forward, and we're gonna slowly turn left. I'm gonna come up a little more so you guys can see it come around. And as you come around, keep putting some left into it, some left yaw. And just keep going around in that organic circle and practicing turning the drone. And once you get the first one, you're going to stop and you're going to do it in the opposite fashion. So now you're going to be pushing the yaw stick to the right and just keep going around in that organic circle. Try to keep it tight so you don't come close to hitting yourself or anybody else. So now you're doing your first forward flight. And once you get used to doing the circle, you can work on doing your figure eights. And the figure eight is a pretty standard training for RC airplanes and helicopters, also in drones. The figure eights are a lot of fun when you first start flying. And if you want to do these a little faster and you get a little more courageous, you can switch into sport mode and you can go really fast. GPS mode keeps it moving pretty slow. And if you get scared or if you come close to something, you're afraid you're going to hit something, just let go of your sticks and the drone will stop itself mid-air, just like that. So pretty simple to fly these quads, but it does take a little bit of orientation. Once you have line of sight orientation with your quadcopter, it's going to help you tremendously and be a much better pilot when you start to do your first aerial photography and videography. So now that you're done with your circuits, you can practice those circuits anytime. Remember those circuits. The square circuit, originally starting out with the right stick only, teaching you right stick, roll and pitch. The GPS column, which also teaches you throttle and a little bit of yaw. You can throw some yaw into it while you're working on your GPS column, and that's left stick only. Your nose in flying is very important. Practice your nose in flying for flying left and right in the opposite fashion in line of sight. And your first organic circles, flying with the right stick only the first time, and the second organic circle, which is adding some yaw into it and keeping the nose of the drone facing forward as you come around in your organic circle. Practice all those circuits before you start doing forward flight, and you're really going to understand your quadcopter a lot more. So now you're ready to start doing your first free flight and forward flight in line of sight. So now I can just fly around the field. I learned my stick orientation and my throttle, so I can go forward and just really just fly around and practice all of these different stick orientations. And it's really important to practice that nose in flying. Go out into the field a little bit and come back at yourself and practice that, bringing it back towards you, pushing right on the stick and watching the drone fly in the opposite fashion, going left. And I promise you, if you practice those circuits religiously in the very beginning, in the first few days of drone flying, you will be a way better pilot than somebody that just gets a quadcopter, puts it up in the air, and tries to do this for the first time. A lot of people get really confused with all of this movement in the very beginning. So a drone camp is a really important thing to do as a new pilot. And it's a lot of fun to do it step by step. It's always fun to learn something new, especially something that flies. I love it. So let's go ahead and land the Mavic Air. We'll go out and we'll do some aerial photography with this drone. We'll take some snapshots. We'll also do some video. And I'll show you what this little Mavic Air is capable of. It's so small, but it's capable of a lot. We'll also go through some pros and cons for you. We'll talk about some pros, some good things about the Mavic Air, and some not so great things about the Mavic Air. But it is a great little quadcopter. After that, we'll go into the studio. We'll take a really close, in-depth look at the DJI MAVIC Air. Here we go. Enjoy the flight. Alright guys, welcome back to the studio, and now we're going to put this Mavic Air on the bench and we're going to give you some honest opinion about this drone. I'm also going to talk about some pros and cons of it. We're also going to kind of compare it to the other DJI drones out there like the Mavic, the Spark, and the Phantom 4 Pro. Which one should you get, I think, is the big question on most people's minds, and that's why you're watching all these videos on YouTube, is to figure out which one you should get. Well, the first thing I ask people as a professional, which drone should I buy? They ask me that a lot. And the first thing I ask them is, what do you want to do with it? What do you want to do with your drone? Do you want to just take it on vacation for family stuff? Do you want to do it just for fun on the weekends by yourself and maybe with a couple friends? What do you want to do with your drone? If you want to use it professionally, there are other drones that I recommend that are in a higher cost bracket. Now, if you want to play around and have some fun, you could always grab a DJI Spark. These are only shooting 1080p, however, so also very portable, but only has a 2-axis gimbal in here, And the new Mavic Air has a 3-axis gimbal and 4K, and it weighs 430 grams, which is over the registration limit for the FAA. So you're going to have to go on the website that I listed below, click the link and go to the FAA's website, fill out your registration, and put your number on this aircraft. So honestly, when we talk about the Mavic Air is pretty much the everybody's drone, and that's what we're going to call this one. This is the everybody and anybody drone. Of course, not under the legal age to fly, but anybody that's the legal age to fly can get this one and have a lot of fun with it. Now, there are some major differences between this one and something like the next level up, like the Mavic Pro. The Mavic Pro is running OcuSync, which is a very, very, very fast and robust system out to that 4-mile mark. Now, other people have gone further, but there's a big difference between these two. And one of the biggest differences is that, yes, they both shoot 4K, but this one is running on Wi-Fi and this one is running OcuSync. So this one has a much faster frame rate to your device, and this one does appear to have a little bit of lag. Now, if in a perfect world, if I could get OcuSync on the smaller one, and maybe they'll do that with version 2 of this, that would be amazing, because you wouldn't have hardly any lag on your image display for your video coming back to your device. Now, that's a big deal when you're out there and you're shooting in sport mode and you're trying to fly like 2 feet off the ground, or maybe you're doing a low water shot or something like that. You want to be very careful flying in sport mode at 30 miles an hour. It does tend to lag quite a bit. So you could hit something and see it a second later. So one very important thing to think about with the OcuSync on the Mavic Pro, you're really not going to have too much of that problem. But what you can do on your Mavic Air is you can go into the device and you can turn down your image quality setting inside the app to make the frames appear a little faster. So if you're really trying to get that awesome sport mode shot and you're flying in between some things really, really tight and fast, that's what you really need to do, is you need to break down your image quality. You will suffer a little bit worse looking picture, but you're going to see a much more real-time view. Now, if you're asking me personally, which one would I buy? That's always the question that I get on the internet and in person when people meet me. Which DJI drone would I travel with? Which one would I use locally? In various situations, depending on what I'm going to do. If I'm going to shoot something close in to town and I don't have to go far, always my first choice is the Phantom 4 Pro. The Phantom 4 Pro's video is absolutely amazing. It's probably the best consumer grade DJI drone that DJI has made to this date. Coming in second for portability would be the Mavic Pro. Now, if I was going to take a trip down to Fiji or Tahiti or somewhere, or out to Bermuda like Casey Neistat did, I would take something like the Mavic Air, mainly because I can just about fit this in my back pocket and walk on the plane. No big deal, and I'm not going to get harassed through security. It's a super, super lightweight device. Now, one of the most attractive things about the Mavic Air is the size and portability. I mean, this thing fits in the palm of my hand. It is super small, almost smaller of a format than the DJI Spark, and a lot smaller than the Mavic Pro. The Mavic Pro is actually quite a bit heavier. It's weighing at 1.62 pounds. That's actually going to be 734 grams. Pretty heavy in the drone market, especially when it comes to race quads. But the Mavic Air is weighing in at 430 grams. It's shooting 4K on a 3-axis gimbal, which is one of the smallest format drones in the world right now, shooting 4K. But if it was me and I was going to put down my hard-earned money, and by the way, no, I don't get paid by DJI. People think that I do because I've been making DJI's videos since the very beginning of time for that company's existence. But I would put my money down on the Fly More combo, mainly because when I go out on a trip, one battery is never enough. I always have to have multiple batteries with me, and the nicest thing about the Fly More combo is it does come with this multi-charger, so I can charge up to like 4 different batteries at the same time, which is really, really great. You also get this little sort of USB style single battery charger, so technically you could have 5 batteries charging out in the field. If you decide to get a couple more, you have room inside that bag for a couple more batteries. Now let me show you the DJI Spark next to the Mavic Air. This is quite a difference here as far as the footprint goes, and this is all about getting this in your personal belongings when you're going to travel with this one, if you're going to pack it in your own bag instead of taking along the DJI bag. But what I really like about the DJI bag is the fact that this bag doesn't actually look like something you would have a drone in. It looks like some kind of regular shoulder bag, maybe more like a camera bag, but it is really actually nonchalant. It doesn't really look like some kind of tech bag. So I feel really comfortable carrying that around, that people aren't staring at me because I have, I'm carrying a big drone case through the airport or out in public when I'm moving around with the drone. Now, another thing that you have to realize about the DJI engineers, they are some of the best engineers in the world, and yes, I'm going to go ahead and say it. They are dominating the market, over 60% of the drone share in the United States right now. They're absolutely killing it. But I can't figure out for the life of me why they didn't do folding props on the Mavic Air. Maybe they're more efficient because these might have a little more loose play in them during operation. That might be why they chose to do that. Maybe it flies a little better. I'm sure that they did a flight test on both style props, and I know that out there on the internet you can get some folding props for this particular aircraft, but I would probably stick to the stock setup and fly it the way that it comes out of the box, because there's a reason that they put this solid prop on there and not a folding prop. And also, if you're really concerned with weight and you want to take the lightest possible drone on your trip with you, the Spark still wins, because the Spark is only 300 grams total takeoff weight, but it's still over that FAA registration point. So you would still have to go to the website, put in your name and address and all your info on that one, and carry it around with your number. Fly it with your number on there. It's just kind of the responsible thing to do, as well as the Mavic Air. But the Mavic Air is at 430 grams, and I can accept that for a travel trip. It's not a whole lot of weight difference for the extra added bonus that you get with all the object avoidance front and rear on this one. Now I'll go ahead and I'll show you some video of my DJI Spark, and I've been everywhere with this one too. I've always thrown this one in the bag and taken it with me, but look at this video here. This is 1080p, and it's doing okay. It has a pretty decent sensor in there, and the 2-axis gimbal is not that big of a deal if you're not concerned with shooting super high resolution 4K. And also, if you do get 4K, keep that in mind. You're going to have a machine that will edit 4K, but most laptops and towers these days can handle it. Mine just barely does, but this is the DJI Spark video, and I think it's pretty acceptable for the price right now. This one's actually pretty decently priced, so it's a good beginner drone. You could start out with something like this and move up to the Mavic Air later. So now you're looking at the granddaddy of them all on the right hand side of the screen. Check out the Phantom 4 Pro Obsidian version. Now this is the newer version of the Phantom 4 Pro. I love this one. It is that black sort of obsidian colored frame on this one, and a lot of people are scared of the darker color because they're afraid that the components inside are going to overheat. But in my experiences so far, I've been flying this one for almost a year now. I haven't had any issues with this one at all, and even longer than that one, I've been flying the Mavic Pro. So both of these have a pretty dark frame on them. I've had them out in some days where it was 85 degrees out. I won't fly much hotter than that. If you're going to fly somewhere where it's over 100 degrees, it's never a good idea, because the video transmitters that transmit inside these drones, they get super, super hot. And the first thing to go out on your quad is probably going to be your video. So you don't want that to happen. That would be a huge failure, because then you're going to be flying blind and you're going to have to try to return to home and hope it comes back and wait and listen for it coming back. But again, the Mavic Air has the huge advantage over the Phantom 4 Pro. If I was going to go on a trip, I would take the Mavic Air, because this one weighs 1,388 grams. That's a lot of weight. That's close to 3 pounds for that particular drone, and it has a much louder report in the air when it's flying. A lot of people, if you're on a crowded beach somewhere and you put this thing up, everyone's like, oh, look at the guy with the drone. I've been other places with the Mavic Air, and I flew this one, and it's so inconspicuous. Once you get off the beach you're flying from, people really don't hear it, and they're not annoyed by it, and it's not sort of disturbing the fun that they're having on the beach. So it's a much, much smaller report in the air and a lot quieter. But if I was going to do some professional work and I knew I had to do a wedding or I had to do some kind of movie shoot or something like that and needed the best image quality possible, I would always hands down pick this one over top of the Mavic Air. Now the Mavic Air, like I said before, this is just pretty much a fun, I would almost call it fun-sumer drone. It is shooting beautiful standard 4K and 30 frames per second, but the 1-inch sensor, the mechanical shutter in this one is just absolutely a superior camera on the Phantom 4 Pro. So if you're looking to get a drone that is going to be totally for professional use and you're not worried about size, I always go for this one, absolutely. But if you're that guy who wants to spend under $800 for 4K video and a 3-axis gimbal and something that you can pretty much take anywhere, the Mavic Air is like the obvious choice here versus the Spark. If you can go ahead and spend that $300 or $400 extra dollars, or if you can spend an extra $700, the Fly More combo is quite a bit more than a Spark. But with the Spark, you're going to buy a lot of accessories for it, and you're going to buy a bunch of extra batteries. So you're going to end up over $500 when it's all said and done. So you're going to just go ahead and go for a couple more batteries with the Mavic Air or the Fly More combo. It's going to be a much better value in the long run. And you're going to have what everybody wants, which is 4K video and a 3-axis gimbal, which is going to make some super stellar stabilized video. Now you're looking at my friend the Mavic Pro again, and let's just go ahead and pull up some video from that drone. This is a very decent drone. It does good video, and if I didn't tell you what drone video this was, you probably couldn't figure it out, like Coke versus Pepsi. Some people can really tell, but some people can't, and most people on the consumer level, they really can't tell the difference. Now, if you have another extra $100 to spend and you want to get the Mavic Pro because it has OcuSync, that might be the way to go, and that's totally up to you. But when it comes to the video between the Mavic Air and the Mavic Pro, it's kind of hard to distinguish which one is which. So that's going to be a decision that you're going to have to make, and just go over the specs for yourself. Check out the OcuSync technology. Maybe if you have a friend who has one, fly it and see what you think of it with your device, because it's going to make all the difference if you have a good device. I use the iPhone 7. Also, the iPhone 8 is an amazing device, or you can use an iPad Air. Version 2 or higher is a really nice frame rate coming back to either one of these drones. But again, the drone that everyone's excited about right now is the Mavic Air. I mean, it's been out for about 3 months now. I've taken it everywhere with me, and I took my time to review this for you guys and actually do a proper review and a real world review, not just kind of put it on the bench and talk about how great it is, because I wanted to see for myself. I wanted to see go way out there where I'm kind of nervous to have a drone at, hoping that it comes back and lands. And that's the biggest thing about flying stuff, is that it's an absolute miracle sometimes when you fly something, bring it back, and it's actually back on the ground and you have it to fly for another day. That's been the big thing in RC, is getting it off the ground and getting it back in one piece. And this one did that. It did really beautiful video, and I'm pretty happy with the performance of this particular drone. And also, for those wondering, watching this review, if you're wondering what type of micro SD card it supports, all the way up to, it does all the way up to 128 gigabytes. So you can go from 16 gigabyte card all the way up to 128. So that's pretty nice. It's a big, huge range for media storage. You can store a lot of 4K video on 128 gigabytes, but it also has internal storage, which I figured out this week. If you want to record to the drone's internal storage, I believe it has up to like 7 gigabytes. And if you don't put the micro SD card in the very back of it where it goes back here, once you fire up this quad, it's going to ask you if you want to do internal, because it sees that the micro SD card is not actually in the drone. So that's also kind of a step forward for DJI. A little bit of inboard storage, onboard storage for full resolution 4K video is always a really nice option for any drone out there. Now let's just go ahead and summarize this video and give you some added value out of all my experience. I'm cramming 5 years worth of experience into this quad for you guys. One thing that I particularly saw when I first started flying it was there was a particular twitch to it, and I've had an update since then, and I think other people talked about it. It would kind of fly up to you, and then it would kind of twitch as it came to a stop. And might have been the accelerometer inside the drone overreacting and kind of just bringing it back to stable really quickly. Kind of a strange behavior that it had, but since I did the latest firmware update, I haven't had any of that same type of twitch. But we're looking at a great solid design from DJI. I think the biggest thing that I'm missing here with this whole equation is that OcuSync that the Mavic Pro has. It's just one thing I'm going to have to live without. If I was going to go on a trip, I can deal with the Wi-Fi. I'm going to take some safe shots. I'm going to try some more risky shots, but I'm also going to turn down the resolution for the transmission coming back to my phone if I want to fly closer into things. So one thing to think about is dialing back your resolution on your device. That's going to make all the difference in the world if you're trying to do those tight shots. But I think that they have a really nice thing going here. Portable, 430 grams, folding arms. They didn't do folding props, but they do have front and rear object avoidance. They also have the standard optical flow sensors on the bottom there. You can see the IR cameras and the infrared sensors right there. So pretty cool that it does have ground detection. You can also fly it indoors. You can get upwards of like 16 satellites on this particular drone. I think I might have gotten 18 at the most, but I'm happy with the 20-minute flight time that they give. And it also has sort of a smart battery as well, very similar to the other quads out there. You can see that little LED display right there, and that's pretty acceptable. It also has a really nice feature, which I love. This is different design than some of the other ones out there. The back load or the top load type of battery seems to be good and bad. The back load batteries sometimes come out and the drone will fall to the ground if they don't get snapped in enough, but this is kind of a foolproof setup that they have here. These two little tabs right here pull back and it shows you a little red right there, and then this part pops up, and there's no real way to get this in there without that snapping down. If you won't even be able to take off like this because it's not even connected, and the connection point is just under there where it snaps in. So that is a really nice safeguard for having your battery totally locked in position. You can hear it snap when I put it all the way in. So that's a really important safety feature. You're not going to have this drone fall out of the air unless you have some type of power system failure on board. So I'm going to say 2 thumbs up to DJI for making a really, really great, fun, and interactive drone with a great app, a great flight time, plenty of media storage support, onboard media this time, and the only thing it's missing is the OcuSync, but I can live without that. I've got folding arms and a pretty decently light and portable drone, so I'm very, very happy with this particular one. But that's just my opinion, guys, and my experiences with it so far. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you do know someone that's just getting into flying drones, please share my channel with them, because I've done DJI tutorials and taught people how to fly drones for years and years and years. And hopefully this video has had some value to you for the Mavic Air and my experiences with it. So thanks again for watching, you guys. If you're out in the field, you see someone that needs some help, like I always say, the Drone Camps model is please do help others. I'm Justin Davis. Take care. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.